Emma had always felt more at home in nature than among people. With her camera slung around her neck and a quiet resolve in her eyes, she stepped into the vast expanse of evergreen forest. It wasn't just another assignment, it was something personal. Since the death of her sister, Emma had buried herself in work, hoping that the silence of the wilderness could soothe the noise in her heart. This trip was supposed to be short, one last capture before the storms rolled in. The forest was alive with the scent of pine and the sound of distant birdsong. As she trailed a young deer through dense underbrush, focused entirely on framing the perfect shot, the world behind her disappeared. The path she had entered from was now hidden beneath the thick arms of ferns and brambles. When she finally looked up, the sky had darkened. A sudden chill swept through the trees. She reached for her GPS, only to find it blinking dead. No signal. No compass. No trail. Just trees, endless and unfamiliar. Panic began to rise, subtle at first, but growing louder with each step. Raindrops tapped gently on her jacket, then harder, faster, until the forest blurred in a gray curtain of water. Emma called out, but her voice was swallowed by the storm. Her breaths grew shallow. She clutched her camera tightly, more out of fear than necessity. In that moment, surrounded by the vast and uncaring forest, she realized something terrifying: she was completely alone. Emma struggled through the rain, soaked to the bone, shivering as wind whipped through the trees. Hours passed. The sun had long vanished behind storm clouds, and the forest grew darker with each step. Her boots slipped in the mud, and every snap of a twig sent her heart racing. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, and exhaustion pressed heavy on her shoulders. She found temporary shelter under a fallen tree and curled up, hugging her knees, whispering her sister's name like a prayer. That's when she heard it. A low rustle, followed by heavy breathing. Emma froze. Slowly, from the shadows between the trees, a large figure emerged. Her heart pounded. It was a wolf. Its fur was wet and matted, and its golden eyes locked onto hers. Emma's breath caught in her throat. She didn't move. She had read about wolves, how they hunt in packs, how they sense fear. She braced for the worst, too weak to run. But the wolf didn't growl. It didn't bare its teeth. It simply stood there, still, observing her. Then, shockingly, it stepped closer, slowly, cautiously. Emma didn't move, paralyzed between fear and wonder. The wolf lowered its head, not in threat, but in almost, understanding. It sat down a few feet away, silent and calm, as if keeping watch. In the deepest loneliness she had ever known, Emma wasn't alone anymore. And in that strange, unexpected moment, something inside her stirred, a flicker of hope in the dark. The storm raged through the night, lightning cracking across the sky, rain pouring relentlessly, but the wolf stayed. Emma, huddled beneath the fallen tree, kept glancing at the animal through half-closed eyes. She was cold, starving, and terrified, but the wolf never left. It didn't attack. It didn't even try to move closer. Instead, it stood watch like a silent sentinel, facing the dark woods, ears twitching at every sound. At some point during the night, Emma drifted into a shallow sleep, more from exhaustion than comfort. When she awoke in the gray light of dawn, the rain had eased to a drizzle, and the wolf was still there. Shivering, she slowly crawled out. Her legs trembled as she stood. She didn't know where she was, but something in her chest had shifted. The fear was still there, but it wasn't all-consuming anymore. The wolf turned its head, locking eyes with her once more, then stood up and began walking in a deliberate direction. Emma hesitated. Could it be, leading her? Desperate and unsure, she followed. Through thick trees, over slippery rocks, and across narrow ravines, the wolf trotted ahead, occasionally stopping to wait for her. Hours passed. Emma began to feel her strength returning, if only from determination. She wasn't just walking toward safety, she was walking away from grief, from fear, from the pain she had buried since her sister's death. Every step she took behind the wolf felt like a step toward healing, and maybe even toward survival. As dusk painted the forest in shades of gold and gray, the wolf led Emma into a quiet grove, nestled between two hills. Towering pine trees formed a natural canopy overhead, shielding the space from wind and rain. At the heart of the grove lay an old, abandoned ranger shelter, wooden, weathered, but intact. Emma stared in disbelief. The wolf had brought her to safety. With trembling hands, she pushed the creaky door open. Inside, there was an old cot, a rusted stove, and a dry corner with stacked firewood. Perhaps left behind by some hunter or hiker long ago. It wasn't much, but to Emma, it was salvation. She quickly gathered the wood and lit a small fire. Warmth returned to her fingers and cheeks. She heated some instant noodles from her emergency pouch, finally able to eat. Every sound outside still made her tense, but when she peeked out, the wolf was lying calmly by the entrance, alert but peaceful. That night, Emma didn't feel alone for the first time in months. She sat beside the fire, her camera in hand, whispering memories of her sister into the warm glow. Tears fell, but they were no longer heavy, they were cleansing. And outside, the wolf remained, as if guarding not just her body, but her soul. In the silence, Emma finally understood. This wasn't just about survival, it was about trust, about unexpected guardians, and about the wild ways love could return when you least expect it. Morning light broke through the pines, casting golden rays across the shelter floor. Emma awoke, warm and alive, something she hadn't felt in more than just the physical sense in a long time. As she stepped outside, the wolf stood waiting, its amber eyes meeting hers with a silent understanding. She reached into her camera bag, pulled out her lens, and took one photo, just one, of the wolf in the soft morning light. It didn't flinch or run. It simply stared back, proud and calm. Then, without warning, the wolf turned and walked away, disappearing into the trees as silently as it had come. Emma stood there a moment longer, the weight of gratitude filling her chest. That creature, once feared and misunderstood, had not only saved her life but helped her reconnect with something deeper, faith, courage, and the memory of her sister. Later, when search and rescue teams spotted her smoke signal and brought her back to town, the story of the lone woman and the wolf spread quietly. Emma never exaggerated it. She didn't need to. Months later, at her photo exhibit titled Wild Grace, the final framed image drew the longest stares. It was of a single wolf under golden trees, eyes filled with something both fierce and gentle. Beneath the photo, a single line read, "Sometimes, the wild doesn't attack. Sometimes, it saves." And every person who saw it walked away a little quieter, and a little more human.